Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect. This is episode 264 and it's being recorded on Sunday, August 12th, 2018. I'm David Lott. Joining me this episode is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, what's up?
Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everyone.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hi, everybody. Hello out there. I don't know what that was.
What was that voice?
I don't know.
Well, David, you were kind of doing a voice too, actually. I don't know if you noticed it, but you almost sound like you were introducing contestants to a game show.
It was a little game showy.
Up first, Bobby Jackson.
It was a little game
Bobby Jackson, come on down.
All right.
It was a little game showy. I have to agree. It's not a bad thing. It was just kind of funny.
It's not bad. It's
trying new things.
Trying to change things up.
It was different.
I guess me changing things up just made you unconsciously change things
I
up,
guess
Michelle.
maybe I was like, I'm going to get crazy with it too.
I'm going to be this contestant.
Hey.
Cool. All right.
I'm Claudia from Iowa. Go back, guys.
Okay. With that, what's up, guys? So, I'm going to do my best not to be distracted by the game that we were watching in the background here in the room.
Game? Why, whatever do you mean, sir? What game are you referring to?
Orlando City at DC United right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I will also try not to be distracted as well as I watch our failed attempt at a goal.
This is going to be awesome.
This is going to be awesome.
I think it was the first time I've had a game on in the background for show.
I feel like what happens is we start a game in the background and then we turn it off.
That'll probably happen here. This will probably go to shit, and then I'll be like, turn it off.
I was going to say, once they get 3 up on us, we'll just turn it off.
Right now it's 0-0.
No, it's a good game. It's
27
exciting.
minutes in. Yeah.
Team any good?
We usually don't leave games on. I think usually it's like when it's championships or something, we've had a game on. Like I've had hockey on a couple times.
You did. You had, that's right. You had a
Stanley Cup on.
Stanley Cup playoffs
Right.
once.
And then we've done, I want to say, some award shows, runway stuff, like before the award show. Like when we record earlier on award show nights, we'll do that. But otherwise, we usually don't have things on the TV when we record.
No. We were very serious when we record. We're very focused. We are.
We are.
Oh, we are.
Right.
No, I mean, honestly, like we turn the TV off for the most part, but it's like those exceptions. Like I will say, like, yeah, like I was like, I'm watching Stanley Cup finals. I'll mute it, but I'm watching it. Like, that's happening.
All
The
right.
Olympics. Yeah, the Olympics is the other exception.
So, anybody see any movies?
I did.
You did?
Bobby, did you?
Let's not all jump up at
did.
once. You know what's
What'd you see,
exciting?
Bob?
Do you know what's exciting? I think David Lott saw a movie this week.
I saw
Shut up.
I saw one movie.
No, you didn't.
I saw a film in an actual theater. You
You
used that
totally
AMC
did.
Stubbs account and saw a movie. And I discontinued my movie pass finally, by the way.
You did?
It was way easier than I expected.
Oh, finally. Thank God. You're just
'Cause I
lighting money on
remember
fire.
when I had movie pass before, back in the day, back before it was cool to have movie pass when I had it. And it was expensive. I think I had to make a phone call to their stupid effing office up in New York where no one picked up the phone and
Shocking.
like had to get somebody to do it, and they probably somewhat kind of did the are you sure, and I don't think they even really fought me on it. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Okay. And I kind of expected the same kind of thing this year, or this time around, which I was like, knowing what I know about the customer service at MoviePass, I was like, God, this is going to suck. That's most of the reason why I was even just putting it off, because I was like, oh, God, I got to deal with this. And then I realized, oh, you can just do it right from the app. It was super simple. So yeah, I canceled. And then I hear it's getting worse and worse. Like, not only, it's one thing for them to change over to okay, you can only watch 3 movies a month. And even though that can be annoying for someone who signed up thinking, man, I'm going to see a movie a day. Now I'm limited to 3 movies a month. Yeah, sure, that's a big cut. But I mean, for someone like me who, you know, if I see a movie a week, 4 movies a month, 3 movies a month, you know, for $10, that's a deal. It's still a deal.
No, it's a spectacular deal for just the average human being. I mean, but I will say that's basically like death to Bobby.
But then I'm hearing in the last 24 hours, they had some run-ins where people could only like check into only like pick between like 2 movies in the app. And I guess MoviePass like acknowledged that, yeah, that was another like cost-cutting feature for them.
So you just couldn't see any movie. You had to go with it.
Yeah,
what
you
they
could only
chose.
choose between a couple different films. And,
oh, fuck.
And then I think
that.
their service crashed again last Friday. It's bad.
They're done. I mean, it was a cool idea when it lasted, but honestly, MoviePass has been dying a slow death, and now they're just, yeah.
Bobby, you still on it? You canceled yet?
I was supposed to cancel earlier this week, and then I kind of rationalized a way into kind of keeping it as an experiment to see, just in case, if I end up at any theaters that aren't AMC, or if I ended up going to see something that's more independent that's not playing at an AMC. And I thought maybe, okay, I'll try to see how that works for a couple months to see if the 3 movie limitation would be a hindrance, or if it didn't have an effect and I was still getting the money's worth out of paying the $10 for it for a month, if I was still being able to see at least 3 movies under those circumstances. But then, as you said, I also read the news about today and how they were limiting even movies that you could see down to 2 choices. Then I'm like, well, then it's sort of like a crapshoot. You're going to go on that day, and if I want to use MoviePass on that day, if they're not giving me the movie that I want to see as one of the 2 choices, then I'm kind of screwed. And so with that, I'm kind of like, well, now there really is no reason for me to keep it, because I don't want to have to play that game that they're kind of doing.
It's just crazy. And then we should say, I guess, the exception to that rule that we've heard about in the past 24 hours is that for theaters that they have partnered with where you can check in early from the app, those theaters, apparently you could still pick whatever movie you wanted, but it's basically all of the other movie theaters, which are the majority of movie theaters.
I was going to say.
That you had to only pick from like 2 different films, which is crazy. So I saw a movie.
It's done.
I saw.
Go ahead. What pray tell did you see?
What
David?
pray tell did I see?
Inquiring minds want to know, David. What film did you actually go to a theater to see?
I didn't realize until like a couple days before the weekend hit that I'm like, oh wow, Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman is going wide. I didn't realize that. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that's happening. I'm definitely seeing this film. So, I went and saw it today. Saw it this afternoon. I'm not the only one. Michelle, you saw it. Anybody else see it?
I did see it. I went and saw something too.
Bobby?
Wow, look at that. You guys going to the movies. All right.
Bobby, Yasha, did you guys see the movie? Anyone?
Bobby? I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear you.
I said Bobby or Yasha, did you guys see it?
Oh. Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I saw it this afternoon as well.
Oh my God, we're 4 for 4.
We all saw this movie.
Holy crap! That hasn't happened in a while.
Boom, there's our episode.
Well, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying that it hasn't happened. I'm not saying it hasn't happened in a while. Like, it's not a movie that we've all been like, oh my God, we're all gonna go see this film. Like this weekend, this is happening. It's not like, seeing Avengers or something. Like, we're all gonna go see that. This is awesome. We all just saw it on our own. We didn't even talk about it. Man, look at us.
Yeah, no, I knew I had to see it. I mean, but it's funny how, even though there's not a lot of big releases right now dropping that I'm like dying to see, like The Meg, I couldn't care less. But then there's like 3 films otherwise I would totally go see, like BlacKkKlansman, and 8th Grade is still out there and I really want to see that. And I still really want to see Blind Spotting, which I may have already missed that boat here in Orlando, but I'll have to check. Yeah, I want to see all these movies. So yeah, saw BlacKkKlansman today. And it's funny, you know what? I'm going to bring up Spike Lee's IMDb as I'm vamping here because I can't remember all the movies he has made. But he's one of these.
A lot of films.
He's one of these filmmakers that I like a lot. But then I say that, and then I look at his filmography, and I go, "Oh wow, I haven't seen a lot of this." It's really sad. It's really pathetic. How many of his films I have not seen.
Yeah, can you give us an example? Like, what haven't you seen?
What haven't I seen?
Yeah. I'm assuming probably some of the lesser known films, because there's a lot that I haven't seen as well, but I try to see most of his stuff because I enjoy it a lot. So it's like I'm interested to see. Obviously, probably most of the mainstream you have seen. Is that right?
This is the sad thing. It's one of those things where it's like, going into this film, I'm feeling like, yeah, I know there's a lot of his stuff I haven't seen, but I feel like I've seen a lot. And then I start to think about it. Sadly, I haven't seen much.
I started going through
the big one that I haven't seen is Malcolm X. I've not seen that film.
Wow.
That's a big one.
Now, Do the Right Thing I've seen, but it's also been so long since I've seen Do the Right Thing that I could stand to rewatch that and it would be it would be almost fresh for me.
I'm right there with you. It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I never saw Summer of Sam.
I actually haven't seen Do the Right Thing.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
I know Do the Right Thing. I'm familiar with it. I think I even know the premise pretty much from start to finish, that sort of thing. I just never had the time or just never watched it. Like, I don't know why. And it has some of my favorite talent in there. Like, I mean, I love Danny Aiello. John Turturro is probably one of my favorite actors. Giancarlo Esposito, before he was, Giancarlo Esposito, and everybody know him from Breaking Bad. So, I mean, and obviously Spike makes his appearance and stuff like that. So it's like, I mean, I know all these actors, and I've seen, the trailers, and I've seen bits and pieces of the movie. I just have never watched it from start to finish.
One of the few that I have seen and I like, and I feel like I'm more in the minority on this, is 25th Hour. I like that movie, but I don't know. I feel like most people I've spoken to are not huge fans of that movie.
I'm surprised you haven't seen Summer of Sam.
Yeah, Summer of Sam. I haven't seen that movie.
I haven't seen Summer of Sam, but I liked 25th Hour. I thought 25th Hour was a very solid film, and it was a very dark movie, but it was still very, very good.
Yeah, I thought so too. I understood some of the complaints in that movie. I forget how far along in production it was, and then 9/11 happened, and the movie incorporates 9/11 into the film, not like the actual event, but like them being in the aftermath of it. But I thought it worked. I thought the way he handled it worked for me, and I know a lot of people felt like it was just kind of shoved in there and didn't blend well, but I liked it. But yeah, sadly I haven't seen enough. I never saw his version of Old Boy. Yeah, that's my way of saying.
Didn't see She-Rock.
Yeah. No.
Chirac.
Sorry.
Chirac. It's a cross between Chicago and Iraq.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense now.
That does make sense.
It's pretty good. I liked it. It's on Netflix now if you wanted to check it out.
Okay.
I never saw that one either. I've seen She Hate Me. Inside Man. I think a lot of us have probably all seen Inside Man. That was a very mainstream film. So
I never saw She's Gotta Have It. But I know that because the show that they've done on Netflix, so now the original She's Gotta Have It is on Netflix right now.
Mm-hmm.
He Got Game was really good. That was a pretty powerful film too.
I think I did see Inside Man. I'm looking at Inside Man. I'm like, yeah, I think I remember seeing that, but that's also been a while.
Summer of Sam's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, you should see Malcolm X. And I honestly, I saw Malcolm X, and it was so long ago, and I was young, and honestly, I could definitely do to revisit Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
But I digress.
But BlacKkKlansman, I don't know about you guys. I thought the movie was excellent. I loved the film. I thought it was really, really good. It's funny. I spoke to my dad about it afterwards because I saw him today after I saw the movie, and knowing how he is, like me, I'm like, Dad, in one sense, I want to tell you that you should see this film. And I do. I'm like, Dad, you should see it. You would like this movie. At the same time, I think it will upset you and piss you off. Mm-hmm. and because it's a very powerful film. It makes a major statement about our current state of affairs in this country, and it works. And that's my very quick thoughts on BlacKkKlansman, but I really, really enjoyed it.
What did you guys think about it?
You first, Bobby.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't mind going. It's just I always hate going. The reasons why. But so when I saw the movie, it was interesting. Well, it was interesting on a couple different facts. But the first thing that I thought was interesting about it was that when I got to the theater. I got there right as some of the previews were already showing, and it was packed. It was a mid-sized theater, so for it to have all the seats were pretty much taken by the time the movie actually started, and for it to fill up that theater, I was actually a little bit surprised. And then the second sort of surprise came into the fact that it wasn't just like a predominantly black audience. It was mixed between Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, There was also young people, very young people, older people, mid-level old people. It was just a different mix of all types of people there, which surprised me. I kind of wasn't expecting that, because a lot of times, especially if it's not necessarily a mainstream Spike Lee movie, it's the audience leans predominantly black. And so it was kind of interesting to see that there was just this wide mix of people there. And so I was like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. And seeing the movie in and of itself, it was just one of those things where Spike has this tendency to do in some of his movies where he mixes the entertainment in with the education. And he does it really well in this movie, where he's not just entertaining you, he's also making sure that you're coming away from this movie with something and not just taking it as a pure statement of entertainment. And I think he did that really, really well. And there was this point where throughout the movie, it felt like the audience was on the ride with Spike for exactly what he wanted to do, as far as everybody who was watching the movie seemed to be laughing at the right parts, seemed to be upset at the right parts. You know, they really felt like they were connecting with the movie, and myself included. I mean, as you said, David, I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. It's extremely powerful. It's poignant, like you said, to where it connects to a lot of the things that are going on today. Adam Driver's good, but really, I feel like who led the way in this movie, as he should, since he was the main star, was John David Washington. And it's so funny when you're watching him act, and also just sort of listening to his voice and how much he sounds like his dad at times. It's like it's scary how much he sounds like his dad. So it's like you're getting all this, and under Spike's tutelage and direction, it really makes you feel like you're transported into this time, and he's like a conductor, and he's playing this instrument and making sure the orchestra is following along to what he's trying to conduct, and you're just following along the beats of this movie and getting more ramped up, and it gets more intense, and you feel the intensity as you're watching it, and then everything culminates towards the end, and it's just this whole sort of symphony of all these emotions that are going on. And then the sort of the last part of this movie really makes sure that if you weren't paying attention the rest of the time, then he's going to drive it home for you. And so you get that aspect of it as well. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thought the performances across the board were excellent. And just everything just felt like this was something that it seems so surreal that this could have happened. And yet you look at the way our society is, and you look at the politics of today, and you're like, I guess it's really not that far off. And unfortunately, once again, comparing this to a movie, not much has changed. And in a weird sort of way, I'm going to connect this to another movie that I saw. I don't think I spoke about it on the podcast, but The Purge, the first Purge, I saw that movie. And there's a lot of undertones in that movie as well that speaks to today's climate. And seeing how in that, they show you in the trailer, but also speaking about it, how they made this experiment and target it towards lower income communities. I think it was in Staten Island, where a lot of African Americans were living and a lot of Hispanic people were living, and trying to essentially wipe out these people. And in that movie, you see sort of a group of people who kind of fight back against this purge. And you find yourself rooting for these people who are fighting back, because even though they themselves, at least in the case of one of the characters, isn't so much of a nice guy, he's kind of like a drug dealer kind of guy for the neighborhood, he still sort of takes it on his shoulders to kind of protect the community. And you get involved in it in the same sort of way I did with this one, and those undertones that are going on there, it has this connection. And that being a horror movie, and you look at this, and it's this statement of something that really happened, it almost feels not that far removed from what it could be as if it was the premise of a horror film, because it seems so surreal that something like this could happen and the way people sort of treat each other. But sort of swinging back around, it was just one of these movies where it really affects you in a way that I think it's always good to have this type of movie out there. Same with Blind Spotting, and Blind Spotting, that's the name, right? Yeah. And also earlier this year last month when I watched Sorry to Bother You, distinct type of voices, but all with that same sort of undercurrent and statement. And it actually makes me want to watch even more the movie that's coming out called The Hate You Give. I don't know if you guys have saw the trailer for it.
Yeah.
But that, again, looks like something that's going to speak to that voice and that sort of undercurrent that's going on there, and interesting. And one more person I wanted to mention as far as in this movie that I thought did a really sort of superb job, even though he wasn't in it much. And that was, I think his name is Corey Hawkins, who was in Straight Outta Compton. And he was as one of the speakers that was speaking to the college kids, and he was so affecting. And Spike made sure to let that whole thing play out. You know, that whole speech, this whole aspect, and it was just so powerful and so moving. And it was like, you don't see that much these days in the Black community, where people are preaching in a way of unity and being able to come together. And you don't see that much. And so it was an interesting experience, and it was something that I knew Spike wanted to highlight and make sure that people were getting that message across, as he did a couple other times in the film. But like I said, very powerful stuff and really good all around. And more people definitely should see it. It made good money this weekend, but it can always make more. So if you haven't seen it, I would highly suggest going to go check it out.
So I'm really interested to hear what Yasha says, but before we continue on with this, in case anybody is listening to this and is like, what film are you people talking about? So BlacKkKlansman is actually a true story about a rookie police officer named Ron Stallworth, who's an African-American police officer who joins up with the Colorado Springs police force. And this is in the mid-70s, and successfully manages to infiltrate, join up, and then kind of like rise amongst the local chapter of the Ku Klux Klan within Colorado Springs. And basically that's what the film is about. And so that's, if you guys are kind of going, what are you people talking about? I don't think we've mentioned it. So
I mean, I was just going to say, in reference to like you talking about the variety of audience members in your showing, Bobby, I mean, I would say I saw the same thing in ours. And also, I noticed kind of a lot of an older audience, which I'm not surprised, given I think, it's not like there's a lot of marketing behind this movie, but some of the attention it is getting is, I think, a lot of news outlets are giving it some attention, given when it is released, which is basically almost exactly a year after Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. And so I know like NPR has kind of brought this movie up a lot on their broadcasts, and like I know I've seen, and you've seen it too, Michelle, when Spike Lee was on with the actual Ron Stallworth on CBS this morning.
That was awesome.
So yeah, I think given that kind of attention it's getting from like mainstream news, kind of tying it into the anniversary of Charlottesville, I think it's probably giving it that kind of attention. And I saw like a lot of older people in the. I was gonna say,
I think it's the younger portion of the baby boomer generation is what I think was impressive at our showing we saw.
Right.
And I think it's the people that were that age in the mid 70s. They were in their early 20s. They were going through the situations that were happening from Vietnam and so forth and so on. And then the whole cultural change that was happening, like the civil rights movement. And so I think that's why they were really curious to see this film. But I don't know. It dawned on me. I was like, we haven't actually said what this film is about. We've just been talking about how we like it.
So, Yasha, what'd you think of it?
I mean, wow. What more can I really add to it after listening to Bobby talk about?
See, that's why I didn't want to go first.
No. Well, it's just, I mean, you delve in so deeply when it comes to the description of what's going on, and the similarities in the relationship between this and other films and other things. I didn't get a chance to go see the latest Purge movie because I'm just not going to watch any more of those movies. I think they're dumb as shit. And but this movie was emotionally moving. Like, it was just an emotionally powerfully very raw film. And when I say this, it's like I saw some young people in there, and I think that some of the people that may have walked into that movie didn't necessarily expect what we got out of that film, because the way it was advertised, I think, was a little bit more towards the humor aspect of it. Like, I mean, I saw some trailers that I thought that made it look like it was going to be really almost kind of funny. And then when I walked in there, it's like I kind of got the tone right away. I was like, this is going to be one hell of a ride. Like, this is going to be really deep, with Alec Baldwin's monologue when he first started in the film to the very, very end, where, just a year ago, we're having, all the events in North Carolina or Charlottesville, I think it was, excuse me. And yeah, it was just a powerful, emotionally well-driven movie. And I mean, the fact that it was even a true story was just kind of blew my mind, and even more. And I was just like, this is crazy. It was fantastic, though. I genuinely enjoyed the movie. It was a learning experience. I did find it educational. I was happy to see that Harry Belafonte is still alive and kicking and able to do things like this. Even though his role was very, very small, and it was a very small part of the film.
But powerful.
But very emotional and very powerful. I mean, it was very giving. A lot of the movie gave a visceral response, whereas it's like, I was like, oh God, man, like, it's listening to some people just preach so much hate and like anguish towards everybody else. Like, it's just disheartening, and it was frustrating to listen and then see the events in just a year ago that were going on. And it's like, it's very eye-opening to a lot of the social consciousness that I think people need to address here in America today, this day and age, that's still very much alive and kicking. And it's weird to see, but it was, I mean, I feel like I'm babbling now, but like, in all honesty, like I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was a great movie. I like Spike Lee. I kept waiting for his patented scene where they're just standing there and the camera's moving and the scenery's changing behind them. I think that's always fun to kind of watch him do, because I always wonder when he's going to work that into the film. And I don't know the actual correct terminology for it, but I think you guys all know what I'm talking about.
It's kind of at the end of the film.
Yeah, it was towards the very end of the film this time.
It was a powerful moment too, that scene at the end.
It was very powerful.
Before the final clip of the end of the film.
Yeah. And I don't know how true to form like this inauguration into the Klan really was, but I am hoping that it was fairly accurate, because it shows a side that you don't really necessarily get a chance to see. And I found it interesting, and I found it sad, on a human scale, like that people feel this way or think this way. But aside from that, it was a very, very powerful, very, very good film. I genuinely enjoyed it. And on all honesty, I could probably sit through it again. Maybe not in the theater right away, because it was so emotionally driving. But in a couple of months, I could probably sit through it again in the house and just kind of watch it again.
Yeah. So all I can do really is echo you guys on this one. I will say, like, my background with Spike Lee films, I've only seen a few of them, and even then it was quite some time ago. So honestly, if I rewatched them, it would be basically seeing them for the first time. But, no, first of all, I will say, I thought the humor in this film was done spectacularly well. There was definitely times I literally was just giggling. I was laughing so hard, and I was trying to hold it together a few times. And I'm saying it's humorous. It's humorous because it's so like tongue in cheek. There's so much like, just, it's hard to even explain without really just kind of getting into more of the film. But like, I don't know. There's just so much like, this is the black man, this is the white man, and this is how we talk, and this is how we do things. And like, I don't know. It was just like every time the character Ron Stark got on the telephone, I was just dying. Like it was just too much, because it was one of the things like this story is so amazing. And it honestly couldn't take place any later than the time frame it took place in, because with any of the technology that happens later in life, later in the past 40 years, basically, like he wouldn't have been able to have pulled this off. And for him to basically do this, not really necessarily a sting, but undercover operation that he did, infiltrating the KKK, and then having a partner be white face, him, and then him on the phone, and to be able to go through that it's just something that is just, you can't even fathom in this day and age with what we have going on. So no, it's a great premise, and I just think the film unravels so well, and it gets really, really heavy, really deep, and it's, in some ways it's emotionally upsetting, and in some ways it's uplifting, because there's times when I was pleasantly surprised by some of the people that Ron was working with within his police force, the way that they portrayed them in the film, and hopefully it's how they really were in life, where they just treated him like an equal, and then some didn't. I mean, which doesn't shock me at all, but I don't know, the film it's powerful and moving and sad, and I don't know. It's frustrating because this film takes place approximately 44 years ago. And the end of the film is what happened last year in Charlottesville. And yeah, like we all took that we've come such a long, far way, and we haven't. Like we're still doing crazy things. There's still things like this happening every day. And I don't know. It's moving.
Also, like, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's like I want to echo something that like you kind of like it felt like you're alluding to in regards to like today's society and stuff like that. I also want to give props to the underlying tones of people that identified as being like Adam Driver's charter, which I found was
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like his character and his relationship to be either the ostracization of his people or being outcast or looked upon differently because of his ethnic background, not ethnic his religious background. That's what I'm trying to say, and how he never really thought about it until he had to think about it, and then right. Being around, I think, so much hate, being a Jewish man, and being around so much hate in these groups really kind of was eye-opening for him, and kind of an awakening moment as well, which I really actually enjoyed the underlining tones of that, but also a very direct approach to addressing it for the sake of the film. Like that wasn't just about black people, and it wasn't just about the persecution of blacks or anything like that when it comes to America, that there are other people that are involved with this as well.
Yeah, no, that's one of the really interesting things. I thought John David Washington, his portrayal was spectacular as Ron Stallworth, and I really enjoyed Adam Driver as well, and to see his character, at first he's trying to kind of run away from the whole fact of what's actually happening and what he's actually involved in. And he's like, it's a job, it's a job, it's a job, it's just the job, it's just the job. And then later he's like, oh my God, what we're doing is so much more than the job. He realizes that this isn't just about white supremacy and African Americans. It's about this whole hate of anything different, be it religion or color or race or sexual orientation or anything. Like it gets him, and he realizes, he's like, I didn't even think about my religion because I don't practice my religion, but I haven't really thought about it, and now I'm thinking about it all the freaking time, and I'm realizing this is important, and it really hits him finally. And I think that's how most people are. Most people don't think about these things until they're forced to think about these things, until you really are involved in a situation of whatever type, and then it really kind of hits home to you. And it was interesting to have that character in there, and it's funny because it's like the film focuses so much on the hatred towards African American people, and then it gets into the hatred towards Jews, and then it's like they touch on it for a minute, but they touch about the hatred towards homosexuality, and it's almost like Spike Lee went, look, we just can't focus all this hate. They touch on it and they had to jump back from it almost in this one scene, because they're like, how much hate can we put in this film and focus in on? Like, there's so many other things that these people hated and stood for and tried to, were against. And it's like, he just, I like that he tried to filter it. It's like, there's almost so much things that they hated that he's like, we just can't get it all in one film, kids. Like there just ain't enough time in the day to deal with this level of hatred. No, I thought the very last scene, like you were saying, like how Spike did it was very moving. And then the whole showing the Klan marching in Charlotte last year, and unfortunately the car charging into the crowd and then killing that poor woman. Like, honest to God, guys, like I teared up. Like it's moving after seeing that film and then seeing all of that. If it doesn't affect you in some way, some level, you weren't paying attention to this movie. Like there's so many layers to it, and it was done well. It was layered well, and it was done well, and I applaud this film. It was quite spectacular, and again, I probably do this around this time of the year, but I start calling some films that are probably going to pop up in my top 10, and it would not surprise me if this film popped up in my top 10 this year. Oh, I was going to say one more thing. I'm so sorry. I know I just babbled on for a long time.
No, go ahead.
But what was interesting is, walking into the movie theater, out of the corner of my eye, I catch a poster, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. We're going to go see BlacKkKlansman, and Death of a Nation is also playing at this movie theater.
Oh. Yeah.
And I'm like, what a juxtaposition of thought processes and...
Right.
Political situations we are currently in our climate. And it was just like, oh, dear sweet Lord. And you know what's really interesting? And this is the only thing I'll say. I have zero desire to see this film, and yet I'm curious just to see the crazy unravel for apparently an hour and 48 minutes.
And
but then I will never be able to unsee it or unhear it, and that scares me. Death of a Nation, yeah.
I'm surprised that you haven't seen it. Like, I mean, when it comes to like films or any type of...
Oh, no. No. Not the film that they focused in on BlacKkKlansman.
She's talking about the film that's currently in theaters, Death of a Nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
My fault.
No, this is a film that's coming out. It's out now, called Death of a Nation. It's directed by Dinesh D'Souza. And I'm saying what IMDb is saying. I do not think this is what this film is about, but this is what this film apparently is about, according to what they're giving as a description. It is a documentary that draws parallels between the dramatic fracturing of the nation over Abraham Lincoln's presidency and the presidency of Donald Trump. It looks to me, and this is my own, I'm officially now giving my own thoughts on this. It is pure propaganda and crap and bullshit. But there's a part of me that's curious to watch this just simply because I'm almost like, because I so don't understand that population that it makes me curious to see it. But at the same time, I'm scared to see it because once I see it, I'm never going to unsee it or unhear it and not have that in my head. But it was one of those things I was like, oh, wow. So that's playing at this theater and we're getting ready to walk in to go see BlacKkKlansman. Right. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird moment for me. Yeah. Anyways, random thoughts.
Well, go ahead, Bobby.
I was just gonna say, I remember when BlacKkKlansman was first announced, and it was interesting because at that time it was just a story, and it said, Spike Lee and Jordan Peele will be collaborating on a movie together, and I was like, that's awesome, because It was really a little bit after Get Out it came out, and so it was like, okay, wow, these two people working together for a movie, it has to be something good. And then seeing that eventually evolve into what we got, it was definitely worth that pairing, and
totally.
Obviously with Blumhouse as well. So it was really, the fact that they were able to do this and accomplish it is something that's, I think, will be celebrated later on when it comes to the award season.
Yeah, the other day on CBS This Morning, Spike Lee was on with Ron Stallworth. And, you know, so they're doing the interview with him and like, so what happened? And Spike Lee's like, so Jordan Peele calls me and he's like, have I got a pitch for you? And that's how this film just started up. And yeah, and I guess Spike's initial thought was like, wow, this is a film that sounds like something that Dave Chappelle should be doing. And I can't believe this is a true story. Are you serious? This is a true story? And Jordan Peele was like, yeah, man, this is, yeah. And Spike was like, yeah, we got to do this. And so they jumped on it pretty quickly, apparently. All from one phone call.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, BlacKkKlansman, box office wise, came in at number 5 this weekend. A little over 10 million. Which, I mean, yeah, you know, in this day and age, doesn't sound like a lot of money. But I feel like, you know, for this kind of film, it's not a bad opening considering some of the movies it's competing against. Like, I mean, it outperformed The Spy Who Dumped Me, which is only in its second weekend.
Right.
That came in at number 6. But yeah, it's BlacKkKlansman.
Well, the fact that it's Blumhouse, and you know that it's probably at most costs like 10 million at most.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, if Box Office Mojo is to be believed, its budget was at 15.
Right. I mean,
15,
I will say though, like, its Metascore is at 83 right now. And then if you look at the top of the box office, that film has a Metascore of 45.
Oh, the Meg.
Like, so, I mean, do you want to, I don't know. It just, I think that speaks volumes. Even though it didn't make that much money, the Metascore is obviously much bigger. I just think that the other one was just such a quote unquote blockbuster film.
And think the Meg made more money in its opening weekend than Ready Player One did in its opening weekend.
God, just shoot me now.
Did it really?
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I believe so.
Oh.
Ready Player One and Rampage, I think were the two movies I saw it compared to. Made more than that in its opening weekend.
Wow. The Meg. And honestly, I think it's just because there hasn't been anything since Infinity War. There hasn't been like a big, no, there was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't know. There hasn't been a big like action-y kind of thing. And I think people were just kind of wanting something silly and stupid to escape before they send their children back into school. And then the reality of life kind of really hits you back in the face that the summer is over. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what it is. And there really wasn't very much other competition this weekend in that format type. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't going up against Ant-Man and the Wasp. If that was the truth, it would have died.
Well, I think it was going to have a big weekend regardless, just because of the concept. It's Jason Statham and a giant shark, and it's a matter of just sort of seeing the curiosity factor play into this weekend. It'll be interesting to see how much it does in its second week, just because a lot of people have seen it this first week, and
right.
you know, it maybe everyone who wanted to see it did go see it this week, and it has a huge drop off next week.
Well, next
it'll be
weekend,
telling to see what. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it'll be telling to see what it does next week when you know, the word is out in terms of, I don't know what people, you said it had a 45 on what, Metacritic?
Metascore, yeah.
Metascore. So who knows, like, in terms of the people who've seen it, what they'll tell other people. I know what I would tell other people, but I don't know what everybody else is thinking.
Well, I will say next weekend, everybody's going to get in their cars. They're going to go see Crazy Rich Asians. Best rom-com to happen in years, man. That film looks hilarious.
Oh.
I cannot wait to see this movie. I like a good rom-com, and there has not been a good rom-com in a while. I could use one in my life. Anyways. So
all the characters like silent.
I know.
I want to see Crazy Rich Asians. I think it looks good.
I think it's good.
I don't think I have your excitement for it, but with that said, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's just because like I feel like I haven't seen a good rom-com in a while. Like I feel like it's been a few years since I could say that was a good one. That was done well. Good kudos to you, sir, ma'am, peoples. Right. But what did Bobby think of the Meg?
Oh, it's garbage. I mean, I don't even need to mince words with it. It's pretty bad. It's a problem of the fact that the tone of it is all kind of over the place. I don't know whether it would have served itself better if it was more of taking itself completely serious, or if it would have been better if it took itself as a joke, because it kind of does both, and I don't think it does either well. And a lot of the problems comes as well with the acting, because there's a diverse cast, but some of them that are in the movie, their English isn't the first language. And so I feel like if maybe like Bing Bing Lee, if she was in this movie and it was Asian, I think she probably would come off better. But because of her English, some of the line delivery sounds bad. It just, most of the dialogue is just really bad, just in whatever sense, whether they were trying to be serious or whether they were joking, just the jokes didn't land. It was just bad. And the action itself, when it's centered around the shark stuff, that part is okay enough. I mean, it's compelling enough because you're focused on that. There's not much talking, there's more action going on, but it's just beyond that, there's not much to it, and I just really didn't find much of anything to enjoy about it, really.
Well, I guess I won't go see it, even though I wasn't going to anyway.
I was going to say, I wish I could say I was very surprised by that, Bobby, but no, I wasn't. I was not surprised at all by that. Did you see anything else, Yasha, or was it just BlacKkKlansman?
No, it was just BlacKkKlansman this weekend.
See, you're cool like me and David. That's all we saw. That's all we needed to see for the weekend.
But what about you, Bobby? What are the other 15 films you saw?
Well, unfortunately, I already saw those other 14, so there was only one other one that I could see that I hadn't seen, which was 8th Grade.
Oh, you saw 8th Grade. Oh.
I did. It was fantastic. It was really good.
Is it?
Written and directed by Bo Burnham, who is a comedian, stand-up comedian, for those who don't know. And it's about this girl. Her name's Kayla, played by Elsie Fisher. And I don't know if she's been in other stuff, but I'd never really seen her before until this movie. And it's really just kind of this part of her life where she's finishing up 8th grade and going into 9th grade, and she's growing up and discovering herself and trying to figure out who she is and who she wants to be. And it really does a good job, I felt like, of capturing all those different emotions and different feelings and those times that you go through that everyone can relate to, because you might not be able to relate to every single thing that she's going through, but there's parts of what she's doing and how she's acting that you've had to have had that similar experience in one form or another. And I think that they really did a good job of capturing it. And I think Elsie, as a young actress, she really does a good job of portraying this character and really putting her emotion into it. And you can't help but to feel for her and sort of want to just kind of give her a hug and tell her everything's going to be cool. But it's like, it really, I thought, has a voice that there's been controversy around the movie because it's rated R, and the intent was to make this a movie that people who at least are in 8th grade should be able to see the movie. And after seeing it, I completely agree. Yes, there's some strong language at times in it and some themes that may be adult in nature, but I feel like this movie is aimed at that group that already knows this, already is using this language, is already doing these things, that it would benefit them to see it. Anyway,
well, the parents might not want to admit that that's what the truth is, but that's the truth of it.
It is. It really is. I mean, you'd have to be dumb to not know that's the truth. I mean, you've seen movies that take place back in the 60s or whatever, and the themes are still the same. They were still cursing and smoking cigarettes, and they were doing all these things. So it's not like anything has changed. They've just become older and more jaded or whatever to the fact that their generation is ahead, but yet the younger generation still has a lot of the same sort of human traits and characteristics and failures that they had growing up. And that stuff just doesn't change from generation to generation. The only thing that seems to change is technology that surrounds us and enables us to do different things. but the way people interact with each other and the way they feel about themselves as they're getting older, those are universal themes. So I don't see why they wouldn't have more people seeing that. And I do remember hearing about or seeing an article where someone had, I don't know if they bought out a theater, but essentially made it to where the movie was free for a day and anyone could go see it.
God, who was that?
Even if you weren't 18 years old, you could still go see the movie. But it was only playing in select theaters, and I think it was on Wednesday. But the movie itself, I just thought was done really, really well, and I absolutely think it's another one of the year that it's a smaller movie and it's one worth seeing. So again, I say this almost every time I see one of these movies, is that if you're one of the people complaining that there's too many sequels and blockbusters and comic book movies out there, there are other alternatives out there.
There are original films. There are things like that. They do still exist.
Yeah.
You know who likes coming of age struggle films?
I don't know who. Who, Michelle?
David Lott.
I have not seen this movie.
I know you haven't seen this movie. I know you want to see this movie. I'm just saying, like, you really like coming of age films. It's like your thing.
I guess. But then there's some that frustrate me, like that one that Bobby and I highly disagree on.
Yeah, I know. I realize that. But I'm saying as a whole, though, you usually really enjoy coming of age films. Like where the main character has this huge epiphany and they really go from basically that moment of like an innocence to like, oh, yep, it's gone. This is my adulthood. This is reality. This is how it is.
No,
go ahead, Bobby.
No, well, you were gonna, I guess, respond to what Michelle was saying, but I'll
I don't really have a response. I mean, no, I like coming of age films. I guess that's true.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You do. Like, you love horror films. I think it's one of the fun things you like. But if it's a coming of age film, the chances of you seeing it are pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's a genre I haven't thought about specifically in that way. Like, oh, I love horror films. Oh, I love comic book movies. But I guess when I think about the movies I gravitate toward, coming of age is
it's a thing
true.
For you. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a thing for you.
Right.
No, I was just going to say that it's so funny because when I was watching the movie and you see the things that Kayla is going through, and it's the normal stuff where if you're not the most popular kid in school, you're aspiring to be in that clique or be recognized as being cool, and just all the aspects that come with that, and having the parents that just don't understand, and that they don't seem to connect with you on that level and whatnot. And I'm watching it, and I couldn't help but to think as I'm watching it how interesting and fascinating lives are just in general, as I sort of was swirling around my head some of the other movies I had seen recently, like the Blind Spotting and Sorry to Bother You, and thinking about that trailer for The Hate You Give, and thinking how as personal of an experience as what this character is going through, the only worry she really had in life at this point is that she's feeling not popular. And then I think about that the Hate You Give trailer, where there's this girl who is going to like this all-white school, and she has to sort of kind of pretend in a way to be sort of whitish so to be able to fit in, but then she has this whole other side to her when she's around her black friends, and then she has to also worry about being black in general and police and everything else, and being part of neighborhoods that are bad and stuff like that. And I was like, man, it's so crazy how different people's lives are and what we consider our problems. And they are, because it's like the whole thing where if you're eating and you throw food away, you don't think about the fact that someone's starving in Africa, so to speak. But everyone's has their own individual struggles. But it's just so interesting when you sort of pull back a little bit and you see some of the things that people worry about, and then if you kind of can put it into a perspective to see how small some of your problems are compared to other people's problems. And after a little while, you kind of like, well, you can't help but to sink into what this person's particular problems are, because they are momentous or monumentous in the way that they're portrayed and how much they mean to that one person. And so you can't help but to sympathize with them and go on that journey with them to try and understand themselves and to grow as a person. And I think the movie does a really good job of putting that across.
Yeah, no, what I was going to jump in with a second ago is in response to what you were talking about with the free screenings. So yeah, I guess that was a decision between the director and A24. They wanted at least one theater in each state to be available Wednesday night, where any age viewer could go see the film for free. So basically, the rating was removed. I mean, in a sense, for that screening, and it was free. And yeah, it's funny though. There was only one in the whole state of Florida, and it was just down the street from here.
I know, we suck.
Yeah, we suck. But at the same time, it's like for what they're trying to accomplish. It's like I wouldn't want to go because I could see whenever I want. You know, it's like
right.
Kind of want like, okay, well, anyone under 18 should go to that screening. You know, kind of like, Bobby, what you're saying.
Right.
This is really, that's the age group that should see it, if anybody. It sounds like.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So should I say what else I've been watching, I guess?
Yeah. Go for it.
So last week when me, you, and Yasha recorded, we were talking about all this different stuff that we were watching. And then I think we were just in general, we were talking about the whole idea and concept of rewatching stuff you've watched and watching new things that you haven't had a chance to see yet. So it inspired me to pick up some shows that I hadn't been able to fully watch, or maybe I started but then didn't get a chance to get back on the train with. So I started to commit myself to watching 3 shows that at some point, various points in times, I haven't watched the whole thing of, and watching an episode a day of 2 of the shows, and then the 3rd show I watched 2 episodes of because it's a half-an-hour show. So the 3 shows are Parks and Rec, Better Call Saul, and The Leftovers. And so far, Parks and Rec, I watched 2 episodes a day of that, and I'm almost done with season 2. And I'd watched season 1 a while back, and I personally liked season 1, but a lot of people say season 1 is like the least funniest or the least best of the seasons. And I quite liked season 1, but I do see what they're saying because I've really been enjoying season 2 that much more. Better Call Saul, I'd only really watched the pilot, and so I hadn't seen much beyond that. And now I'm almost at the end of season 1. I'm like 1 episode before finishing that season, and that's fantastic. I'm sad that I hadn't been watching it prior, because seeing that character and knowing where he came from in Breaking Bad, and seeing how much of a good heart he has, and wanting to do the right thing, and really trying to live up to his brother's approval, it really shows that character has such a journey to go on to get to where he becomes in Breaking Bad. So I'm really into that show a lot, and it's one of those now that every time an episode ends, I want to jump right into the next one, but I'm trying to make sure I regiment myself to at least watching what I've set out to do. So definitely enjoying Better Call Saul, and The Leftovers, which was the show that's on HBO that a lot of people said was really, really good. And I remember starting to watch it when it first came out, and I only watched maybe the first 2 episodes and didn't get further than that. And so I picked that back up. And the first season, it's has a pacing issue, I think. It's a little bit slow, and not much is really, truly happening. But I've always heard from the people who do love this show that it really gets good after season 1, and just kind of hang with it. And it's not bad. It's not like this higher level of TV, so to speak, that I can understand yet why everyone really loved it. But it's decent for now. So definitely the one that's got my most attention as far as plot and story is Better Call Saul, because I'm anxious to see where it goes from where I've been watching it. But good stuff, and I'll keep you updated with my progress.
You go, boy.
You watch all that stuff for me, man.
Go get it.
Apparently, I guess I'm
thinking
man.
like you're saying what, 2 episodes a day? Is that what you're saying?
2 episodes a day for Parks and Rec. Basically, I'm trying to watch an hour's worth of each show a day, and technically, I think I did the math on it. I can technically do 3 episodes of Parks and Rec because they're like 20 minutes once you take out the commercials and stuff. So technically, I can watch 3 episodes a day of Parks and Rec, and then 1 episode of Better Call Saul and 1 episode of The Leftovers.
Right. Yeah, I just think like if only I could commit to that. I couldn't do that. Unfortunately, with my schedule, I just couldn't do it.
Not even 1 show, 1 hour a day?
I could do that, but like what you're doing. But even that sometimes would be tough, like under certain, I mean, every day is different for me. But
well, I know if you were to do 1 show, 1 hour a day, what Yasha would say you should.
Oh, Breaking Bad, for sure.
I got so much flack for that when I saw him in San Diego.
Oh, we talked about it last week when you were here. Don't worry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. I wish I could.
Start small. Just maybe even just a half an hour show a day, if there's one that exists that you haven't seen and are interested.
All right. Well, with that, I'm gonna go get back to my busy schedule. I gotta wrap things up.
Yeah, you still gotta edit and post the show, man.
That's right.
And then you gotta go to bed. And then you gotta wake up and go to a job.
Yeah, we don't get paid to do this, unfortunately. So I have to go to a job. So yeah.
This is the best hobby ever, by the way.
It is. It's a good hobby. I like it.
Yeah, I get much enjoyment out of doing the podcast, and obviously, it. Even if I didn't have the podcast, I'd be doing all this movie watching and TV watching. But it feels good to be able to share it with the world.
To have an outlet for your thoughts and opinions on film.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap things up. For everyone listening, we'd love to hear back from you. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at @flicker_effect. Or you can find us on Instagram or Facebook, just at Flicker Effect. Just look for us, talk to us, give us your questions, comments. We would love to hear back. And you can also find us, by the way, on YouTube. You can find these shows in audio form on YouTube at youtube.com/Flicker Effect. We've also got some video content on there, and hopefully more video content to come.
We've got some sweet video content from Comic-Con. Y'all need to check it out.
We've got a little bit, and even possibly one more from Comic-Con, even though it's been a couple weeks now. But wow, I laughed after that one. Jeez. Watch you edit the movie. Yeah, with that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening.